I was asked by a reporter the other day in Athens, of the Athens Post, what are my feelings knowing that Athens is losing one of the premier leaders of a nonprofit organization working on education reform. They said, actually, it's Athens' game that we have Debbie Phillips elected to the State House. So I'd like to introduce Debbie Phillips, the founder and creator of the Ohio Fair Schools campaign.
Well, it is wonderful to see everybody here. I'm glad you were able to be here for this event celebrating the merger of the Ohio Fair Schools campaign and education voters. You know, I haven't really planned remarks for this, but as I heard other people speaking, I started thinking about things that we've done along the way with the Fair Schools campaign. We formed the Ohio Fair Schools campaign because Bill Phillips invited me to come to a meeting in New York that had been organized for states that were involved in school funding litigation and also had some grassroots efforts, because I was working with a small group in a 3-county area who were concerned about school funding as taxpayers and citizens, and you know that were just concerned about the issue after the first DeRolf ruling came down. And it became very clear to us that across the country there had been some great wins in terms of the litigation in school funding, but there had been some very reluctant legislatures across the country who had not really made the changes that needed to be made to implement those great litigation victories. So came back and started working with a lot of people to try to pull together a grassroots voice that would be working statewide and help put the pressure on the legislature that was needed to accomplish the reforms that we need to see here in Ohio. And so many of you have helped along the way and been part of that. Merle, as a classroom teacher, brought students to retreats and to the State House, and Michael Charney as well. You know, CJ, I don't know how many times we came to your office when you were the Senate Minority Leader just to like collapse on the couch for 5 minutes in between, you know, all the care and feeding of witnesses as we brought people in to, you know, testify on budget bills over the last 3 budget cycles. You know, it's really important that citizens have a voice as we are engaged in the very significant reforms that we need to move the state forward so that our kids are going to have the resources they need to be competitive in a global economy. I think we have an incredible opportunity right now. You know, we have a governor who has taken ownership of this issue clearly and unequivocally, and he's moving forward with the kind of systematic overhaul that we know we've needed for a long time here in the state of Ohio. When you undertake that kind of huge overhaul, there are a lot of pieces in motion, and there were some initial results in the in the data runs that were a little bit surprising to folks. So we have been working very closely with the education organizations and with the governor's office to address those issues as we move the bill through the House. I think we're very close. I think we've got a good handle on the issues that need to be dealt with in terms of the funding and some of the language issues as well. So, excuse me, I'm getting over a cold. I hope that in a couple of weeks when we introduce the substitute bill, that we'll have all of you standing there with us and we can really claim victory in the reforms that we've needed to achieve here in Ohio. I'm confident that Education Voters is going to do a great job in that, and I'm very pleased that Julian Rogers is going to be working with citizens to help them stay involved as we engage in these very important reforms. And we're going to need all of you standing with us to get this done. So really glad to see you here and look forward to continuing the work. You know, I'm in a little bit different role at the moment, and I'm thrilled to be there. This is exactly the moment to be working on this issue in the House. And Steve Dyer, the chair of the K-12 subcommittee, well, I'm not on finance. He's been fantastic about keeping me involved in all of our internal discussions and our discussions with the governor's office, and I think we're making great progress. We're going to have a lot to celebrate when we get this budget through. I think we're going to see some reforms that are going to help improve opportunities for kids all across the state, and we need everybody involved to do that. Appreciate everything that you all have done all along the way to get us to this point. It's a very exciting time. We have Representative Matt Patton joining us as well, so he's another big supporter. Julie, thanks for the work you're doing. So glad to to have this merger going forward and know that there are folks across the state who share our values in making sure that we've got an education system that serves every child, no matter where they live. So, thank you.
Excuse me, Debbie. You know, in the Black church, we have this thing where we always have a response from the visitor. And I just need to thank Debbie and the organization, Ohio Fair Schools Campaign, for allowing the opportunities for my students to become activists and to learn about school funding and to have an opportunity to be listened to so many times. And so I just feel like I need to do that on behalf of my many students who took part in the hearings and the retreats. Before your organization, they didn't have those kinds of opportunities. So I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you. I want to add, in terms of the student participation, in the last budget, there were students who testified in the K-12 subcommittee, and one of the members of that subcommittee raked them over the coals, just really gave them a hard time. They're shaking up there, you know, dealing with these cross-examining kind of questions, but they handled it. And the voice of students in this process is just incredibly important, because nobody can point to them and say that they're in, you know, some self-serving capacity. You know, that people understand when they hear from kids what this is about. And it's been kids from all over the state, rural and urban and suburban. We had an essay contest winner from Beechwood who talked about, you know, how important it was that we develop all of the talent of all of the young people in the state, and how, you know, he would call me at 11 o'clock at night in a crisis of faith of how adults could allow this to happen, that we would not provide these opportunities to children in Cleveland or in Trimble. So, you know, these young people see very clearly where we need to go, and it's been great to have their voices involved.
Taking two members of the Ohio Fair Schools Campaign Board onto our board. So I'd like to announce Richard Spangler and George are going to be joining our board. Our advisory board. And also I'd like to acknowledge that Pat Frost Brooks is also a current member of our advisory board. So the Ohio Fair Schools Campaign has been putting out a newsletter, a bi-weekly newsletter called What's Up with School Funding. Amy Lipka was the person that actually put that document together. So we will continue the release of the Ohio What's Up with School Funding. So look forward to that. Actually, it should be coming out in the next couple days, the first issue under Education Voters.
Is there about 12,000 names on that goes to? Is that about right?
That's about 12,000 names on that email distribution list that are in that.
Can I tell another story
yes,
about the email list? One of the first times we used that email list for an action alert, we had in the first day, this was when the bill was in Senate Education Committee. CJ's smiling, I think she knows where I'm going with this, but within the first day that action alert went out, the members of the Education Committee got 700 emails. Wow. And our office got a phone call from Senator Kate saying, make it stop. That was exciting.